We've talked about a lot of different positions for the New York Jets with the 10th overall pick. But is there one we've been missing? It's time to discuss. We just got a YouTube comment in here. Charles, love your show. Only show I watch every day. Without further ado, Charles, for you and all the great people, Boy Green Daily starts now. Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
Good Super Bowl morning, everybody. God bless. My name is Paul Austin Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel and everywhere else you could be watching, Facebook and Twitter, youtube.com/BoyGreen25. Make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe. This is Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show, also available wherever you get your podcasts. And we got a juicy Super Bowl show for you guys today. And it will revolve around former NFL general manager and more specifically, former Jets general manager Mike Tannenbaum, who had a very spicy comment. But before we get to that, it has been Super Bowl week, and there's something else that I wanted to highlight, and it's this question here. Charles, once again, joined us on our YouTube channel. He sends in this, Paul, do you think the Jets draft a quarterback in the later rounds? And I just want to say that I saw the great Michael Penix Jr. join Jake Asman down there at Radio Row, and he said that he would love, it would be amazing to play for the Jets. It'd be amazing to pick the brain of Aaron Rodgers and things of that nature. So, again, I don't know where Penix gets drafted. It seems like, some people believe he'll be a first-round pick. Other people believe he's going to slip. I heard Bruce Feldman join the Rich Eisen show, said he could go undrafted with his crazy medical history. TBD. But he's a fun one. But we'll see. I would advocate for the Jets to draft one because you got Rodgers. Zach Wilson's going to move on soon. You're going to get a veteran in there. And then third guy, developmental. I'd like that. We will see either on day 2 or more likely on day 3, somewhere in that rounds 4 through 7. More on that in just a little bit. But let's bring on the superstar. Okay. If you're running a team, you need a franchise player. And that's exactly what this man is. Ty Butler, ESPN 98.7. Fresh off, I'm sure, a massive contract, and rightfully so, to keep him there locked in. Ty Butler graces us with his presence. Good morning, Ty. Super Bowl Sunday, baby.
Happy Super Bowl Sunday, man. It's bittersweet because excited for the game. Chiefs-Niners should be a thrilling matchup between the two best teams in football. But, man, the last actual football Sunday for the next 7 months? That's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow. It's been a fun season.
Yeah, it sure has, and that part's a little depressing. There's no doubt about it. But the excitement is, this is a Jets fan time. Off-season champs, the headlines, the papers. Okay, so this is our time to shine. So there should be plenty of that sort of material. Not at the top, of course. You have Aaron Rodgers. That's locked in, so there won't be that level of drama that there was last year. But other interesting pieces, which should be fun to watch throughout this process. Now, Ty. I don't even know if I want to call it a request, but last week after the show, a clip came out of Mike Tannenbaum, former NFL GM, joining Jake Asman, which we're about to play for you guys here in a second. And you're like, damn, I wish we would have saw that clip before. And I'm like, well, Ty, why don't we save it for next week? And, I'm like, boy, who knows what content it could come up during the week. But you know what? It didn't. So we will bring it up right now. We're going to play you guys all the clip. Mike Tannenbaum, again, former NFL GM, former Jets GM specifically, joined Jake Asman on Mad Dog Radio. And what you're going to hear is a Jake Asman question, a Tannenbaum answer, a Jake Asman curious follow-up question, and a Tannenbaum answer. What in God's green earth? Is there a new position the Jets are going to attack with the 10th overall pick? Zoinks.
Start with the Jets, Mike, because The Athletic earlier this week, they dropped a story where they spoke with 30 sources behind the scenes, and it basically covered the unmitigated disaster that was the Jets' 2023 season. One, what did you make of an article like that? And two, when you look at this Jets future with Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, do you think Woody Johnson is making a mistake, ultimately retaining the two people in charge of the organization?
I don't know it's about that. I just want to put all my eggs in Aaron Rodgers' basket. I said the day after he got hurt, Jake, they need to have depth at that position. We saw the Browns go to the playoffs with 4 different quarterbacks. I think that's job number 1, 2, and 3. So I know everyone thinks they should draft a tackle, but Aaron Rodgers is going to be 41 years old. I don't know. I would make sure I'd have a lot of insurance at that position.
Is that something they could do in free agency by signing a qualified backup and then, drafting someone in the middle rounds? Or would you be willing to potentially use that 10th pick, no matter what the circumstances are, ahead of free agency and then finally at the draft and just take the quarterback you believe in there?
Yeah. I mean, look, a lot of optionality there because they do have more than one hole, Jake. So you could go tackle then quarterback, you go quarterback to tackle. But if I'm the Jets, addressing the offensive line and getting depth at the quarterback position is hugely consequential.
Wow. Okay, Ty. We've been having the wrong shows, brother. Apparently QB, 10th overall pick, Zooey Mama. And I don't blame Jake. That's good hostmanship right there. He's like, did Tannenbaum say what I think he just said? Excuse me, follow-up question? Man, 10th overall pick quarterback on the table. What say you, Ty Butler?
All right, so would everyone agree that the best case scenario next season is for Aaron Rodgers to be healthy for 17 games?
That I would.
For him to play, let's just say 95% of the snaps, and in week 17 doesn't matter. Because we're looking best case scenario, week 17 doesn't matter. Insert whoever the backup quarterback is, right? Like I have that right?
Yes, absolutely.
So on what planet would it make sense that with that being the best case scenario, with everyone hoping that transpires next season, you put yourself into a position where the number 10th pick, who you just drafted, essentially doesn't play a single snap the whole season? Because that if Rodgers is healthy, whoever you draft at quarterback at 10 is not playing all year. And if you've watched this team, you've outlined all the different holes they have on the roster. You could go offensive line, skill position players, maybe some, defensive replacements that you're going to have to account for once guys start leaving in free agency. With all those holes, how does it at all make sense to take a guy who best case scenario won't see the field next year when you're trying to win a championship? Like, I understand, to me, what doesn't, and we keep coming back to all the people, and this includes fans, who are so worried about having that quarterback of the future when, damn, for 2 decades, you haven't even had a quarterback of the present. We're trying to do backflips to be, Golden State Warriors, light years ahead. Steph's still in his prime. Let's get all the Kumingas and the young guy, Moses Moon and all these young guys. Listen, you haven't had a quarterback in God knows how long. So, best you do is focus on, and I get it's not ideal because he's 40, coming off an Achilles injury. And, I mean, go get your insurance in free agency. But, man, all the people who are suggesting that they draft a quarterback early, it just doesn't make sense to me. I got nothing but love for Mike Tannenbaum. Hosted a show with him a couple weeks ago, but dog, that is just a horrendous opinion, man.
Ty just laying it on the line. I will tell you, I need to put that one on a T-shirt. Everyone's talking about the quarterback of the future. The Jets haven't had a quarterback of the present for some time. That's a good one. That's a good line. But I'll tell you this, and here's the other things. That's all true. Everything you said is true. The Jets don't have a second-round pick. So after 10, it will be finalized after the Super Bowl. But after 10, the next time the Jets pick, and it will also be affected, I don't think they will be affected by comp picks. It's normally at the end of the round. But the next time the pick is 72, so we're going to pick quarterback, in theory, against something that's not going to help them at all next season. And then you're waiting 62 spots for your next whack at the pinata. And this time we're fingers crossed, hopefully it's someone that'll play this year.
Yeah. I think the better play, and it's, I forget who said it. I would give him credit for it if I remembered. But
Okay,
someone
so
who
you
covered
should
the
just
Jets.
take credit instead. Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually how that works, right? If you don't remember, plead ignorance.
Yeah.
That they have to get creative because that 10th pick,
Mhm.
if you can find a way to trade down, like let's just say you still have 3 guys on your board at that spot, and we don't know who those guys are going to be, but let's
Sure,
just
right.
live in that space where they have 3 guys available. You trade back so you can try to get that second round pick
Mhm.
this year, so that you're not waiting until 72 to make your next selection. I think that's the ideal scenario. You take 10, trade down, get another second round pick this year, and then that'll help you fill those holes.
That's compelling, and I will tell you. So we did an analysis. Again, this is just NFL draft value chart, so it's not a exact science here. But the Jets would have to trade back to 18, which is the Bengals, and of course the Bengals would have to be willing to trade up as well for them just to drop to a spot and then just get a second round pick with nothing else included. However, as one person throws up here, NY Jets FL, maybe Mr. Tannenbaum is greasing the skids for someone to trade up with the Jets. He's just throwing out a smokescreen because I'm sure they will believe a former NFL general manager on a radio show. But I will tell you, when I look at Tankathon, I think there's an interesting run here of 11, 12, and 13. Vikings, Broncos, Raiders all could be involved in the quarterback conversation. So if they can't make this massive trade up to one of the other spots, maybe it's a bid to get to 10. That's like some made up scenario that I'm potentially hoping for. I read Ian Rappaport for Super Bowl Sunday had a big QB column, and in it he said that the Raiders, Mark Davis, was asking every GM candidate, how can we trade up in the draft? How can we trade up in the draft this year? So there's been some aggression there. There's been reports of Denver, Minnesota, if they can't whack the pinata on Cousins, which I don't expect him back, that all of a sudden all those guys could be interested. There's, again, F the draft value chart, throw it out the window. When things happen game day, oh, geez, that's our guy. Who gives a flying hoot? We'll give up a little extra capital just to move up to get our guy in the moment, a player on the board. That's something that could behoove and benefit the Jets, where you slide minimally 1, 2, 3 spots, pick up some nice capital, and still get the guy you want.
Yeah. Going to 18 is tough. I mean, if we're just going based on that draft value chart, that's
correct.
Dropping 8 spots is tough. But if you could finesse it, like Joe Douglas has been really good at trades.
Mm-hmm.
We can crush him for free agency and then like a lot of the other drafts, 2022 notwithstanding. But
yes.
I mean, get a trade that's so favorable where you can, and every GM goes into the draft thinking this, but get a trade that's so favorable, you still get your guy and then recoup that second round pick. Because that second round pick is important. Like people just I don't think that's getting a lot of traction. Maybe as we get closer to the draft, it'll become a bigger story. But that second rounder, you expect to be a starter for the next 3 to 5 years at least, and to just not have that is, I mean, for this team, such a massive disadvantage.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. Think about over the years now, the Jets have certainly had a lot of bad ones. Stephen Hills, Devin Smiths, things of that nature. But Joe Tippmann was on the PFW, the Pro Football Writers America. He was on their all-rookie team. He was an impact
Breece
guy.
Hall, man.
Yeah, Breece Hall, obviously. He was there. I'm going back a bit further on this one for maybe some of our non-younger listeners. David Hitman Harris back in 2007. So we've had some doozies over the years, certainly. And Breece, obviously, is one that really jumps out to you in the brain. But, again, you need pieces. You need things to help you win now. And even if you sacrifice capital in the future, I heard Connor Rogers float this one out into the universe. The Jets did this about, what's that now, 8 years ago? I'm getting old. Where they sacrificed future picks to jump into the draft. They did that for Brandon Shell. They gave up a future 5 to get a current 4 or vice versa. And when they did that, all of a sudden they got a player that they weren't even going to have on the board till they made a move. So I think that's an important piece of the
And
puzzle.
if you're Joe Douglas, you can, what affords you the ability to be that aggressive is the idea that this could be your final season. You know, you hear Woody Johnson. You hear Woody Johnson talking to the NFL Network.
Yeah.
As my kids are screaming in the background. As soon as I mention Joe Douglas' name, they just get so frustrated.
Was that a coincidence? I think not. But go ahead.
So you hear Woody at the NFL honors talking about how clearly devastated he was and
Good
just
Lord.
irate and not subscribing to this theory that, injuries happen. What do you expect us to do?
Mm-hmm.
He said next year we got to be better than 7-10. So it does sound like those guys are on the hot seat. So Joe Douglas on a hot seat can afford to be aggressive, understanding that those picks might not be made by him.
Yeah, very, very much so. Very much so. Okay, let's get to it. It is Super Bowl Sunday, and I know the Jets will be back here one day. We've been on the doorstep a couple of times, couple AFC championship games and things of that nature, so we'll be back. But today, it is 49ers. It is Chiefs. I've asked a few of our guests throughout the week, Nick Mangold, a couple others, like, hey, man, what do you guys think? And basically the gist I get every time is, well, the 49ers are a better team, but Patrick Mahomes. This, but Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. I'm picking the Chiefs because Patrick Mahomes. Brock Purdy does not titillate my juices. I don't know, man.
So I don't mind we all want to be right.
Sure.
But what really bothers me is when I predict something and then I feel stupid about my prediction. So let's just play this thing out. Okay. If I pick the Chiefs and the Niners win, of course I'm upset that I'm wrong, but I don't feel dumb about that. Now, if I pick the Niners and the Chiefs win, I feel dumb because it's like you just bet against maybe the greatest quarterback we've ever seen, who now is 14-3 in the playoffs. Two of those losses came in overtime. One of those losses came in an overtime where he didn't touch the ball, and the other loss was in the Super Bowl against the greatest quarterback of all time, Brady. So think about that. His three playoff losses: 2 to Brady, 1 to Joe Burrow. That's the list. This guy, you look at not the cumulative stats, but the actual averages. And he's like first in everything. He's been a starter for 6 years. He's been in a championship game for 6 years. He's now in the Super Bowl for the 4th time. Like, at some point, you just become so overwhelmed by the excellence and by the numbers. You just throw your hands up and say, yo, even if I don't think that you're going to win this game, because I think that the Niners have a better overall team, I'm just not betting against you. I'm just not going to do it. So I've got the Chiefs winning this one. I think San Francisco has a legitimate shot.
Yeah.
Because Kyle Shanahan at some point's got to break through. So it's a big game for him.
Does he?
He does, man.
The old chocopotamus?
Yeah, remember, we watched that game together, that 2016.
That was our last Super Bowl together. And you know what? I will say this, that normally, again, I want a good game, and we've had a lot of good games over the Super Bowl. But I will speak for you, Ty. When we looked at each other with a smile, this is the greatest thing of all time.
Yo.
I'm enjoying this blowout. Pass the backboard, Ty.
Damn, fam, you would have thought, like, people could actually take footage of, like, us jumping up and down, high-fiving, chest to chest, and just remove, like, the lower third of it, like, this is the 2016 Super Bowl. Paste that into a montage of, like, the Jets winning the Super Bowl. And it would make sense. It would make sense. Like, that's how excited we were to watch. I mean, Brady's throwing pick sixes. Matt Ryan is going up and down the field on Belichick's defense.
Phenomenal.
28-3. We're like, yo, this is amazing. This is, yo, we got work the next day. We don't even care, man. This is great. And then that happened. So, I mean, Shanahan has that on his resume.
Yeah, that's true.
2019, when they're up 10 in the 4th quarter against the Chiefs, lose that game.
Lose.
Then they blow a big lead against the Rams when the Rams
that's correct
won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's right.
So he's got a lot of blowing leads, and they were I think the number was 0-30 entering the 4th quarter, trailing by 5 or more points. That obviously went away once they beat the Packers. But
this
is a big game for him, man.
Maybe overrated. I don't know. Everyone talks about him as the second coming of the Messiah. Wait, Kyle Shanahan's coming through, split the sea. He's got to walk through. But come on, man. He's missing some hardware, baby. Missing some hardware. And
got a chance to get it today, though.
Yeah,
and if he does, then you look at him differently. Because getting to a Super Bowl with Jimmy G, who you just mentioned, Mark Davis, is walking all around asking every GM, how do I get a quarterback? Yeah. Jimmy G's the guy they trusted. Jimmy G got them to a Super Bowl. Brock Purdy in his second year as a full-time starter, fresh off of an elbow injury, gets them to a Super Bowl. And if they win it, then, I mean, that does
And
wonders for
against
his resume.
Mahomes, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's the Eli Manning thing. He took out Brady twice in the Super Bowl, and it was like boom, boom. That's why I think he's going first ballot next year, despite the fact that he's 117 and 117 as a quarterback, was never a
Let's
first
talk
or
about that
second
real
team
quick.
All-Pro. Yeah, let's
Real
go.
quick. So I
Yeah.
am so ready for the discourse on the Eli Manning Hall of Fame
Yeah.
because he's going to get in at some point. Is he
He's first year
ballot?
eligible next year. Yep.
Is he first ballot? Because
I
so
think
he's got the two Super Bowl wins, and I
Yes.
actually have the hang on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do some real time because in preparing for the radio
Ooh.
show.
Yeah, of course, obviously. Which we'll give a proper plug for here in a second. Let me just. I talked out of my ass this week. Let me double check. Okay, I thought so. Eli Manning was the Super Bowl MVP in both of those Super Bowls as well. I just wanted to confirm that. Yep.
Yeah, he was. Even though maybe in the first one he shouldn't have been, because that defense was tremendous.
Exactly.
But
yes.
You look at Eli Manning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he is one of 6 players in NFL history with multiple Super Bowl MVPs. You've got Bradshaw, Starr, Montana, Brady, Mahomes, all Hall of Famers. Mahomes obviously
that's a pretty good list.
Not there yet. Brady's, not there yet, but Brady's going to be in the Hall of Fame. That's a pretty good list. So to be on that level of echelon is, it speaks for itself. The counter, and so in addition to that, before we get to the counter, he's top 10 in yards, touchdowns, and
almost every
completions.
major category. Yeah.
The counter to that, though, is never made first or second team All-Pro.
That's crazy.
He also, in his he has 16 years as a starter. 14 of those years didn't win a single playoff game.
And he's 500. Overall 500 record. I believe it's 117, 117.
He's 500. And then 3 times, not that this matters because Favre got away with it, but 3 times he led the league in interceptions. So it's like he's going to get in. It's a
crazy case, yeah.
But it's like such a unique resume because how often did you watch Eli? And just remove the playoffs for a moment, like the 2 Super Bowl runs. How often did you watch him and you sat back and you thought to yourself,
that's the best quarterback of the game.
Yeah, this is one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen. Right? So that's why it's so interesting.
Yeah. Me and my dad talk about it all the time, and he's a Cowboys fan, so his takes are always painted when we're talking about Manning. But he had always these wincing interceptions, like pressure was coming, he just went, and then just threw it, and it gets picked up. You're like, golly, what was that guy looking at here? So I just, again, to me, I've been just hell bent on this. I just believe unquestionably, despite all those stats you just said, which makes me start to. Maybe I should rethink about this, but I've just been he's a first ballot. If Eli Manning was never born, if Archie and said, you know what, I think we have enough Manning boys running around, and didn't do that, Tom Brady would have 9 Super Bowl rings. 9.
Yeah.
7 is already what the obviously that's the most. He would have 9. And it took unbelievable the David Tyree catch, Plaxico Burress touchdown. It took the Mario Manningham crazy catch and the backed up in the end zone and then the craziness there. So it took craziness to even prevent the 9. But without Eli, there's 9.
My counter to that is, the Malcolm Butler interception. That's going to be a mainstay of one of the dumbest decisions a head coach could ever make.
Yeah, but who was that though? That was I see what you're saying. Oh no, I got you. Yeah, right. The Patriots would have had another ring. No, I understand. Or wouldn't have.
The Seahawks.
I get it.
Yeah, the Seahawks.
Yes.
You're on the 2-yard line. Everyone in the building knows the ball should go to Marshawn Lynch, and he scores a touchdown there.
That's a good point.
28-3. We just talked about that. As great as Brady was,
that's a good point too.
After that. You go back in. So I often will, not often. A couple of times I've gone back and watched the final 5 minutes of that game.
Yeah,
and it's amazing. If you put that through a simulator, I think 100 times out of 100, the Falcons win that game. They're on the 35. Remember Julio Jones makes that sideline catch?
Yeah, crazy.
They get to the New England 35. They're up 8. You're up 8 on New England's 35-yard line. A field goal wins the game, but then Ryan's taking sacks. They're throwing the ball. It's just like it's mind-boggling, man. It's mind-boggling.
That's a good point, though.
Insane.
It's a fair counterpoint, though, to all the Super Bowls.
And then the Tuck rule, of course. The Tuck rule.
Well, yeah,
Come
right,
on.
right. Which was in the wild card game against the Raiders, and now I just read it from Rappaport. He's about to be approved here in a couple of weeks to be a Raiders minority owner. It's going to happen, so he will be. Which that's gonna be awkward at the Thanksgiving family dinner for Raiders fans coming up. I wonder what that's gonna look like. But
wait, so he's allowed to be a minority owner and be the
a broadcaster?
Really?
Yeah. Apparently, yeah. There was a lot of talk, to be honest. When it first happened, people were like, "Oh, okay, like, maybe it's going to happen." And then over the last, I don't know, year and a half, however long it's been of discussion, a lot of people said they think it's going to all fall through. But I just read a piece from Rappaport this morning that it's expected to be approved by all parties. There's a couple of March dates where it should be all finalized by the end of March. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a little weird because conflict of interest and, speaking on Raiders games naturally and other things. And just, again, being privy to information as an owner of a team. That's a significant percent, by the way. His ownership group is buying 10%, and Tom Brady specifically will own 7% of the Raiders. So that's a big chunk.
That's even more of a conflict of interest because I had an issue with Doc Rivers when he was on the number one ABC broadcast, ESPN.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He was a consultant for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Correct. Bucks, yes. Mm-hmm.
Which, that screams conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're in on meetings and you're giving them advice and instruction.
You could share information because what's supposed to happen for people who don't understand for these like CBS not CBS, it could be anywhere, but these pre-production meetings, the teams, there's supposed to be a level of trust where they spill their guts on the table and just say, because they want the broadcaster to have as much information as possible to tell the best story to the fans with actual details and not guesswork. So there's a trust there that when these teams come behind the scenes, you're talking to players, coaches, everybody, they're just all over the table. Yeah. So Doc Rivers go, those are interesting guts. I'm just notepad for myself.
let me tell Adrian Griffin this. Yeah. Hey, Bucks. Celtics, that Tatum double screen they run at the end of the games. They're considering doing that the rest of the season.
Yeah. Like, what the hell? So
that's insane.
Just wild. So
you're picking the Chiefs. You're picking the Chiefs too?
I'm picking the Chiefs. I think I heard Greg Olson earlier on the Rich Eisen show. I was catching up on some content from Crazy Radio Row. I agree with him that it's going to be somewhere in this ballpark, like a mid-20s kind of game. So I have it somewhere. I forget what the official thing I submitted, but it was something in the ballpark of like 28-24 Chiefs. That's what I'm thinking.
As long as we hit the over, that's what I care about.
Yes. What's the over?
What's the over under? I saw 50.5.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. I think we should be able to get that. We should be able to get that. We have enough. We have enough star power in action. Yeah.
So I thought what was interesting was all week long, or for 2 weeks, it didn't really feel like we had tremendous buzz. I don't know what you gathered from watching national shows, consuming national podcasts and television. I didn't feel like we had a lot of buzz just because the game itself, while sexy, doesn't have a ton of storylines, whereas like Detroit-Baltimore would have just been phenomenal to talk about for 2 weeks. Like, I think this game is going to be great, but just like the lead up to it, nothing really jumps out to you outside of, Mahomes catching Brady. Quietly, how about this? Andy Reid could be a big winner too, man. Because this guy, so he's 283, 160-1 in his career. This could be his third championship as a head coach. The list of guys with 3 or more Super Bowl wins: Joe Gibbs, Bill Walsh, Chuck Noll, Bill Belichick. So, I mean, he joins exclusive company. Like, when you think about, who are the best coaches of all time? How often do you actually say Andy Reid? Then you look at what he's been able to accomplish. He's up there. And he could climb to as high as, like, depending on what happens with Belichick, I don't know if he's ever going to catch him. That's 50 wins he's got to make up. But if Belichick doesn't ever get another job and Andy stays with Mahomes, who knows? So he can climb as high as number 3, maybe number 2 on the all-time coaching wins list. And adding another Super Bowl tonight would be big for him. So those are like the storylines that jump out. And Brock Purdy's become polarizing.
Right, like last game manager versus playmaker, all these things are Purdy, like again, Mahomes to Purdy and things of that nature. The Super Bowl rematch from 44, now we're getting it, or 54 rather, and now we're getting it again. So yeah, there's a couple of things that people have been dancing around, but I agree with you. Even if we got, it would have been poetic in some way that Chiefs Lions, that's the first game we got in the season, the last game we get in the season. So there was that. Obviously Lamar being there for the first time, guaranteeing a winner. The repeat champion, that's another thing. We could get that for the first time in 20 years. The last one was Patriots 03-04. So that's another one. And then again, I just maybe just to address this, Todd, because I was interacting with your poll, right? The Bills dynasty question you guys had out on the radio show within the last week or two. By the way, I had to slap around one of my interns, Ty, a great intern back in the day. One of our interns on my radio show was a Buffalo Bills fan. I told him absolutely not a dynasty, and he was trying to explain what they were. And then Manchild said, well, they're a dynasty of the AFC. I'm like, what does that even mean? That sounds like a perennial loser. That doesn't make any sense.
Wait, so you brought it up on your show?
We did. Nice. Come on, Ty. You're national, baby. Of course we did. And I will say that we had a Chiefs guy who's in Vegas. So we had a lot of representatives at the Super Bowl. We had a Chiefs guy, and he said, I'm going to throw this word out during our interview. I'm like, okay, what? He's like, I'm going to throw the dynasty word out. I'm like, yeah, 4 Super Bowls in 5 years. Of course you're going to throw the dynasty. He was like tiptoeing around it. Like, I don't want to upset anybody here, but dynasty, you have 2 Super Bowl rings. To me, the definition of a dynasty is winning multiple championships in a short period of time. 2 Super Bowls, that counts. If they win today, it's a greater. Now we're talking about where the dynasty ranks, not if it is or if it isn't in my mind. 4 and 5 years, and the wins. You need to win. Dynasty is winning. It's not participation trophy. It's not on the stage with the guy on the first, second, third place. I'm like, yeah, woo, selfie. I was here. You don't remember because we kept losing. Like, no. Yeah. Dynasty is winning multiple championships short period of time. That's always been my definition.
To me, this would, open the door for the conversation. And a lot of people would call it a dynasty. It would be, 3 and 5 years? 4 trips. So 4 Super Bowl trips in 6 years. 3 Super Bowl wins in 5 years. And to have the back-to-back.
Right.
It's incredible. And by the way, listen, their down year is them winning a Super Bowl, going through Buffalo, going through Miami, Buffalo, Baltimore, and then the Niners, and winning the Super Bowl.
Both 1 seeds?
In your down year is just insane. But yeah, this to me would be the Super Bowl. This would be a dynasty, like crescendo, for Mahomes and the Chiefs, and it's amazing because you just get the feeling, and this is my biggest fear. And I'm going to talk about this on my show today.
Yeah,
you kind of get the feeling that the Chiefs winning today, in some ways, ruins next year's regular season.
Do tell.
Because how do we then discuss Kansas City next year? How are they at all interested?
First ever three-peat.
But I'm saying the conversation starts and ends with Kansas City, right? Like there's nothing that they're going to be able to do during the regular season that's going to convince you Buffalo, Baltimore, Miami, the Jets can beat them. Because if they can do this in their down year where they don't score points, the receivers can't catch. Remember the year started off with Kelsey's injury, Chris Jones' contract dispute. And then you get to the playoffs, you beat Miami, Buffalo, Baltimore, San Francisco. And next year, it's just regardless of what happens, no one's beating them. So that becomes less interesting. Whereas if they lose, then maybe we can talk ourselves into they're actually being contenders. If they win, it's all right, everyone's playing for second place.
Yeah. No, that's a good way to put it. And final one from me here. I just heard Mahomes say this last week. I think I brought it up on one of the shows earlier this week. I just wish I had this problem. He was talking about, he said, getting into it. He said, I got into my Super Bowl routine this week. And I went, Super Bowl routine? Like that he had been there so often that he already has a routine on how to handle the week. The Jets haven't been there in 55 years. It just made me scoff, laugh, and go wow. And he was dead serious. He said it straight face. I kind of got into a Super Bowl routine now. And I was like, you arrogant piece of, I was like, you bastard. You've been there so often that you've already developed a routine. Where the hell are we?
Oh
That's
it. That just annoyed me.
That was funny, not funny. Yeah, there was more so annoying, to be honest, than anything else. But
I can't wait to have that, like, what it feels like for 2 weeks preparing for the Super Bowl. Like, as a fan,
yeah, right. Just being
like,
the talk of the town. Yeah,
yeah, it's
right.
like nerve-wracking because, like, you wake up, can't sleep the night before.
Obviously.
There's no chance. And for me, like, I'm hosting a small, like, little intimate Super Bowl party today. I already told my wife and everyone who knows me, the Jets are ever in the Super Bowl. Don't even think about coming to my house. Like, this is going to be me alone in my living room.
Yes,
watching this thing.
I'm not being bothered. People going, hey, what'd you think about that commercial? Get out.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, hell no.
Did you see that game? Like, stop it. Like, what do you think about this? My wife coming up to me. Do you want to give the kids a bath? No, I do not. I just want to watch the game. I don't want to drink. I want to drink water. Like, I don't want any alcohol.
Hydrate. Very nice.
Yeah, I don't want food. I just want to watch the game because it's going to be a miserable experience. Honestly, it's going to be miserable.
Yeah, because again, I can't. This was the NFC Championship game, but I can't imagine being up the way the lines were, and that's the Jets. And I'm planning my Super Bowl tickets. I'm like, okay, Vegas. All right, let's look at hotels. And for that to happen, I would never live that down. I would never live that down. That would be, oh God. So yeah, and then think about the Super Bowl, right? The Falcons. 28-3. They've never won the Super Bowl. They've been twice. They got curb stomped. The Jets should have curb stomped them. That's a different story in the late 90s. And then they got there this time, a bunch of years ago. They have that kind of lead. They lose, and they've never won. And then Matt Ryan's a retired broadcaster. You're like, that would have been fun. And then it never happens. Who knows whenever they go again? I don't freaking know. Yeah. So, boy, that's brutal.
Buffalo, right? We've talked about their 4 straight trips. Losing on a wide right, like,
here's memory lane. So your poll that you did from your radio show on social media, it inspired us to start looking into it, talk about it on the show. And Bills fans, the only close one was the first Super Bowl, wide right against the Giants, which was 2019. Every other one was a blowout.
Yeah,
they got smoked twice by the Cowboys. Oh God.
Yeah.
Everyone was brutal. Ooh,
it was
terrible.
It was a bad take by my guy Brandon Jacobs that's a dynasty.
Come on, Brandon. I can't believe
terrible. And I felt even dumber having to put that on Twitter.
Yeah.
But we wanted the audience to weigh in. But the fact that they're like, wait, is this a serious question? But there was something. I think we got 33% of the people to say, yeah, it was a dynasty.
Oh, come on, man.
People are nuts, man. They're nuts.
I'm just hoping. Well, this is a beautiful transition. So hopefully you're getting a few more carries today on Super Bowl Sunday than Brandon Jacobs. Hopefully we can give you a few more of the reps after that kind of questionable decision. Sometimes you fumble. You got to be in the doghouse for a little bit. So give us the setup for Super Bowl Sunday. Ty Butler, Brandon Jacobs, time, place, circumstance. Give us all the juicy deets.
All right, so 11 to 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as my boy Stephen A. Smith would say, Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be on 98.7 ESP in New York, so pull us up on the radio, pull us up on the app, pull us up on Alexa, wherever you find your radio shows. And we're going to have wall-to-wall coverage of this game today. I've already spilled it. I'm going to tweet it out. I'm picking the Chiefs, and it's only because I ain't betting against that guy, Patty Mahomes, who, as you just said, has a Super Bowl routine. I'm not betting against it. So I got him winning today. We'll talk about that. We'll, of course, get into I mentioned the Andy Reid part of it. That I think is interesting, like what a win means for him. You brought up Shanahan about how you're not sold on him. Matt Ryan, man. So how many times did you watch Matt Ryan in his career and say, yeah, that's an MVP candidate? Once.
The year that he was the MVP.
Yes.
2016,
exactly.
yeah.
With Shanahan, right? Never before or after that did you watch Matt Ryan and think he's an MVP. So that works for it. Jimmy G Super Bowl. Brock Purdy Super Bowl. So if he gets this win today, man, it's so huge for him and his quote-unquote legacy. Talk about that. And then, of course, the Woody Johnson stuff, Saquon. So a whole lot to get to today for 3 hours. We're going to have some fun, man.
I can't wait. So awesome.
Chris
ESPN
Canty,
98.7. Ooh, yeah.
Super Bowl champion. 2 times over. Chris Canty is going to be on the show. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah. You're tight with Canty, right, Ty?
Yeah.
Well, he blocked me, man. He blocked me on Twitter.
Wait, what happened?
Yeah. So he said, and I cooked him with some receipts. He wasn't very happy about it. He mentioned it was I'm going to mess up the years now, but the year that the Jets got Sauce, DJ Reed, and they had everybody heading into it had to have been
2022.
Yeah. So he said, man, corner's a major need for the Jets. He said it on one of your guys' ESPN radio shows, and I heard it, and I was driving the car, and I swerved off the road. I'm like, excuse me? Like, heading into the season? And he said it, and I'm like, he didn't just say that. And I re-listened to your podcast. I'm like, no friggin' way. So I tweet out the clip, and I'm like, what is this guy talking about?
Did you tag him in the clip?
I did. I absolutely did. 'Cause, man. I have to be honest. I don't want to like tag around it because you know what's going to happen. People in the comments are like, "Hey, Canty, you see this?" So I was going to be straight up, "Hey, Canty, what's up with it?" But I wanted a conversation. I said, "Hey, Canty, what's up with this take, man? Like, what are you talking about?" Boop, block. And so,
wait, you tweeted that? What was the tweet? I want to pull it up.
Okay, yeah, let me see. Let's see if I can pull it up because, like, I don't know how many Chris Canty tweets I've sent. What's his at?
Chris Canty 99.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I can pull this up right now. Let's see.
He just straight up blocked you, huh?
Oh yeah, he there was no conversation. There was absolutely not. That's it. Oh, here it is. July 6th, 2022. Here's the clip. Chris Canty called out the Jets DBs. Even though they picked Sauce Gardner number 4 overall, I'm still worried about that secondary. I think they're a little thin at the quarterback spots. I go, huh? Well, that's certainly a take an insta block. I'll throw that up on the screen so
let me see it.
Come on, man. Canty, what a take is that? That's even worse than I thought he said. But there it is. Let's throw it up on the screen. There it goes. At Chris Canty called out the Jets DBs, even though they picked Sauce Gardner. Tag Sauce as well. Number 4 overall. I'm still worried about that secondary. I think they're still a little thin at the cornerback spots. And I'm like, pfft. And there's the whole video clip too. I guess we could play that too. Yeah, here's what Chris Canty said. This was on Greeny. All right, here we go.
I like what they've done on the defensive side of the ball too, Carlin. I will say this, even though they picked Sauce Gardner 4th overall, I'm still worried about that secondary. Mm-hmm. They did add Jordan Whitehead and LaMarcus Joyner. I think those are solid veterans, but I think they're still a little thin at the cornerback spot, so we'll have to wait and see with that.
That's not a bad take. Come on.
What?
That's not a bad take.
They're still a little thin with Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed?
No, Sauce fit. We knew Sauce was going to be awesome. And we didn't think DJ Reed was going to be as good as he played. We did not. None of us thought.
A little thin? Come on.
I don't think so he qualifies it by saying he has questions. It's not like he came on and pounded it. No, that secondary is going to get cooked. He said, I've got some questions about the secondary. You've got a rookie coming in who's going to need some time to adjust. And I guess cornerback is the adjustment period might be shorter for rookies with cornerback.
But the Cincinnati thing is what people cook Sauce over. They said he was doing things at Cincinnati. Let's go to the NFL, Slappy, and see how you do, and the Sauce nickname and stuff. He caught a lot of heat. Yeah.
But you don't really look at corners like they take time to develop. Corners kind of, instantly hit.
Sure.
I don't think it was that bad, but he blocked.
What's that bad? Funny. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what I'm going to say. So bring that up to him, Ty. You probably won't, but bring that up to him, and let's have a conversation.
I'll bring it up to him. I'll be like, I was on a podcast this morning, and this dude mentioned, and I'm previewing the show, and I threw your name out there that you're going to be on, and the dude hosting the podcast mentions that you blocked him once on Twitter. I'm like, oh man, that's just funny. That's funny.
Yeah, what the hell? So, okay, if it's not that bad, I appreciate the defense of Canty. Then if it's not that bad, then what was the block for? Like, come on, man. Like, he should have just said that then. Like, well, hey, dude, got a couple questions. What's a big whoop? Solved. But anywho, neither here nor there. All right, Ty, enjoy Super Bowl Sunday, brother.
You too, bro. Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. This was a lot of fun. We'll see you next time.